Any closer to the team, Justin?
Yep. Not telling you though. Yeah, we know we've got a really good idea, but we'll keep it as long as we can. We don't want to give England all our secrets, so but we're really clear what the final, certainly 12 is, but we'll leave it till late as possible till you guys find out.
What about Cameron Bancroft? How sort of close is he to?
He's close, yeah. He's very close. He's one of two openers that we could pick, I reckon. Be a great story if he comes back in the team. It'd be a really great story, won't it? From where he's come from, I think his learnings over the last 14 months. He's gone away. He's played really good Shield cricket. I think he's averaged 57 or 58 at the back end of the Shield season. He's averaged 40 odd for Durham. He played really well last week. He brings energy to the team. His development over the last 12 months after what happened in Cape Town has been absolutely extraordinary. We're that proud of him. So if he gets the nod, he'll be very excited about playing for Australia again.
Justin, Dave Warner, you had a bit of a scare with him. He seemed all right in the nets. Do you want to give us an update on that?
No, he's fine, mate. He would not miss this for anything in the world, I reckon. He can't wait. That excites an Ashes test match. And Steve was in the change room, so a few little bruises every now and then. There's no way that he's not walking out to bat. Tugger would probably kick him out the door, I reckon, but he's fine, mate. He got a little hit on the leg yesterday. He's a bit stiff this morning, but he'll be 100% ready to go.
Have you guys managed to sort of put the ones of you who were involved in the World Cup put to bed what happened here at Edgbaston in the semi-final?
Yeah, it was obviously very disappointing for us. Obviously, we had the 14th of July tattooed in our brains for probably a year or so, and we got to the 11th of July, so it was disappointing from that point. We got outplayed on that day. England were excellent. They ended up winning the World Cup, so great credit to them. They were the best team for the last couple of years, really, and I said it throughout the whole World Cup. I thought they'd be the toughest team to beat. As it turned out, they were. So we were disappointed, but you got to put it behind you. We had a big campaign in the World Cup, and now it's Ashes time, so we can't be have our tails between our legs for too long. We just didn't have a chance to do that. So yeah, we got over the disappointment.
Justin, I know you've spoken about this for a long time, and the fact that you could have all three guys from Cape Town playing in this Test match. How confident are you that, in terms of the reputation and the way that you've gone about things, that when you get into the pressurised white heat of an Ashes battle, that players don't revert to type?
I think we've shown over the last 12 months. We played India, who are the #1 team in the world, and there's more coverage against India than any team in the world, as you know. I think we saw by our behaviours on the field then. We played Sri Lanka, who went on to beat South Africa. We played good cricket, and we played how we want to play in the spirit of the game. We did it in the World Cup, where there's great pressure. It only happens every 4 years. So same here. Our guys know what the expected behaviours are, and I'm confident we'll continue to do that. We have to. There's going to still be some fight in the Ashes. We'd be all disappointed if there wasn't. There's still going to be some fight, and there's going to be some good combative spirit. I've got no doubt about that. But our guys know what's expected.
And there was a piece today saying that for the first time, I think in 8 years, that you haven't had any ICC code violations for your team. How proud are you of that, and is that what you expect to be the case come the end of this series?
Oh, I hope so, yeah. I hope every team in the world would be hoping that the boys get no code violation. It's not good for the game of cricket, is it? So, yeah, that's what the expectation is. We know what the standard is. We have to make sure that we're on top of the game with that all the time. So, yeah, I hope that through my whole tenure as coach, that's the way. But whether it happens, boys are still boys, and they're playing a tough game, and every now and then emotions take over. But our hope is that continues, no doubt.
James.
And Justin, in terms of the reception that those three could get here, I mean, it could be Warner and Bancroft walking out to bat on day one. What are they expecting? What are you expecting? But also, what are you hoping will be the reception?
I know what the reception is going to be. I think we all do, but it is what it is. Honestly, it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about that, and it is 100% out of our control. It's out of their control. So there's nothing we can do about it, and that's okay. That's okay. We've been to lots of Ashes. Every Ashes series is the same, and England are the same when they come to Australia. It's really tough. And that's just the environment we're in. You go to Cape Town, you go to Johannesburg, whew, it's like being in the Gladiator movie. So it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. Our boys, Stephen and David, have had a pretty good dress rehearsal of it during the World Cup. I thought they were brilliant the way they behaved and responded to it with the bat and in their behaviours. They kept smiling their way through it generally, and it'll be no different in the Ashes series.
Just to follow up on that, what makes you think Bancroft is ready as well, and what do you see in him that tells you he can cope with this environment as well?
Well, we don't know actually. We'll find out. But we're very hopeful. I mean, as I said, the work he's done on himself over the last 12 months has been outstanding. So, and he's a good kid. He's a tough kid. He's a really good kid. He's physically as tough as anyone you've ever seen in your life. So mentally, he's going to have to be strong. But again, to endure the scrutiny of the last 14 months, particularly the first part of it, I think he's had a pretty good dress rehearsal as well.
Justin, Joe Root the other day referred to the fact that there's an element of fatigue setting in the English camp. When you compare your run up to this test, not having to play a test in between the World Cup and now, as England did, why is your preparation better if it is? And do you notice any fatigue setting in among those players who played the World Cup?
Two parts to the question. I think the first one is that we just played our own sort of mini test match. Our batters had to face Hazelwood, Stark, Cummins, Nessa, Pattinson on a pretty spicy wicket in Hampshire. So they've had their test match as well, in a sense. Good, tough game. But there's no doubt it's a challenge for both teams, that the fatigue after it. This is unprecedented World Cup and then an Ashes. Both are really big competitions that we all want to win. So it's going to be a challenge throughout, no doubt. And we're aware of it. We're going to have to deal with it. There's nothing we can do about it. But being aware of it is a good starting point. Like Joe and England will be aware of it. They'll have to deal with it. They'll have to manage it as best they can. So will we. But I honestly think it's not just about this Edgbaston Test match. It's about how we can endure right through a 5-test match series. It's going to be a tough series, no doubt. How we endure that, that'll probably be the team who wins the Ashes, I think.
Mal, and Dan.
Justin, right back at the start of the tour, when you were talking about Steve and Dave, you sort of said you'd have to keep an eye on them and maybe sort of put an arm around them at certain times. Have you had to do that?
Yeah, I think you do with all the players, actually. But those guys, imagine walking out to that reception all the time. But again, the great credit to them is they batted, they played well, they behaved well, didn't they, throughout. They smiled their way through it. They were great for the fans. They kept signing autographs. That showed a great character, a bit of courage. So yeah, you've always got to keep an eye on them. You do with all your players. I've got to do it with the 8 guys who missed out from, and we'll keep in touch with them. The ones who missed out on this squad, the 6 guys who miss out. There's going to be 6 tough guys. It's very hard. Whoever misses out deserves to play this Test match. It's a good position to be in, but you've got to make sure you keep encouraging them to. And from experience, it's a tough one when you're 2001. I was in and then I was out, and then the next 6 weeks are hard yakka. So you've got to make sure you look after all of them.
And just to follow up, obviously the new concussion sub-rules come into play for this test for the first time, and just wondering your thoughts on that, and if that's something that you keep in mind at all going into this test.
Yeah, I think we're lucky because the last couple of years of Shield cricket, we've had the concussion sub-rules, and as long as it's played in the right spirit and there's real clarity and I'm sure there'll be clarity after the referees meeting tomorrow. As long as you've got clarity and there's good spirit and good common sense, I think it's a really good rule, actually. A couple of years ago, I wasn't so sure, but I think now with the it's very topical concussion, and it's something that we've got to be aware of. We've got to keep an eye on. So I'm glad it's come into Test cricket.
Justin, there's a phrase you don't hear much from Australian cricketers, at least international cricketers, in the last little while, which is play my natural game. Do you think that this team have got or adapted to a successful sort of brand of cricket that can work in England as opposed to, I guess, how it's gone on the past few Ashes tours here?
Yeah, I hope so. It's very different. All the teams are different though. I mean, the last Ashes series compared to 2009, compared to 2005, compared to 2001, they're all very different teams. So we'll find out. I think Steve Waugh said it yesterday. This is where you find out about a lot of people, and heroes can be developed in Ashes series. We saw it in 2005. Actually, every Ashes series, heroes come through, and that's because they adapt to the conditions. They're up for the fight. There's going to be plenty of times where they have to show a bit of steel, whether it's with the bat or the ball or in the field. So we'll find out if we can adapt. We've got some young guys coming. We've got a couple of great players. We've got some young kids just finding their way. A couple of guys have played a bit of cricket, so we'll have to adapt pretty quickly.
Bharat at the back. Ali, then one more, please.
Justin, there have been so many feel-good stories in Australian cricket in this series. Smith, Warner, Pattinson coming back. But not much is being spoken about Peter Sill. So how do you see his story in the last couple of years, and what do you think he brings to the table at this stage of his career?
He's brilliant. He's 34 like Jimmy Anderson, and experience. He's been playing over here for a few years in county cricket. He's done well for Essex. Just again, the energy he brings the room, it's unbelievable. He's 34 going on about 15, I reckon. He's just such great energy. Someone said to me last night in a text, who's very close to cricket in England, spends a lot of time here working in English cricket. He's a bit like the McGrath, a bit shorter version of the McGrath for English cricketers. He bowls well to England. He hits the top of the stumps all the time. He tests techniques all the time. He's got good endurance. He's a very fit athlete. So it's great to have him as part of the squad. And if he plays on Thursday, he'll be on this wicket, overhead conditions, I think he'll be a real handful, or we hope he's a real handful. He also brings that great mentorship to the team because he's been around a lot. He's played a lot of cricket here. He's got over 200 test wickets, and he brings a lot to the squad.
Justin, what does Joe Root thinking about moving to number 3 tell you from an opposition's point of view, and just generally how do you sort of view England's sort of strengths and weaknesses when you're looking at the opposition?
One, it's none of our business, honestly. I'd be surprised if England don't go with the 4 quicks plus Moeen Ali and Ben Stokes, which means they've got an incredibly strong bowling attack. So we're going to have to be ready for that. Joe Root, we batted Steve Smith at 4 in the World Cup. He would have preferred to bat 3, but for the balance of our team, he batted 4. Did a good job. Great players, they can bat anywhere, I think. So where he comes out to bat, we'll have our plans for him. We know he's a great player. We know he's their captain. We'll have good plans to him, and hopefully we can get the better of him. The captain of the opposition's always, it's crucial. So where he bats, we know we're going to have to be on top of our game to make sure we come up trumps against him.
Last one, anyone? Nick?
Australia haven't won in England since 2001. Would playing a big part in an Australian victory be perfect redemption for Warner and Smith?
I think there's a lot of attention on Davey and Steve. Australians like to win, and they like to beat England. We all know that. England like to beat Australians, so I don't think it's got anything to do with redemption. But they've played the World Cup now. A lot of guys they've played a lot of cricket. I don't think it's redemption. They're just happy to be playing, and we want to beat England, and England want to beat us. That's why the Ashes is so great, isn't it?